Hey, everybody. It's me, Devontae Stone, the Stone Pony. And on this guy's podcast today, we're going to be discussing the current political climate, such as the recent RNC convention that happened in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, right down the street from us. Also, the Democratic National Convention that's coming up in Chicago. And, of course, Joe Biden ending his running. During this episode, I want everyone to keep in mind that the livelihood and the safety of all people are of the utmost importance. Now let's get into this guy's podcast. Hey. Hey, this guy's podcast. Hello, everybody. I'm Devontae Stone, the Stone Pony, and here with me in the other chair is my friend Nin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a brand new episode.
Welcome back to a brand new episode. I'm so glad to have you here with us today, Nin.
Thank you for having me.
So can I get right to it?
Go off.
I'm going to read to you what do we call it, a tweet? We don't call them tweets anymore, do we?
Are they X's? Because we're not calling those either.
I can't even call my exes. Anyway, if you're listening today, but no, I know. So we're gonna go to X, which is formerly Twitter.
Yeah.
And let me read to you something from the President of the United States, Joe Biden. My fellow Democrats, I have decided not to accept the nomination and to focus all of my energies on my duties as president for the remainder of the term. My very first decision as the party nominee in 2020 was to pick Kamala Harris as my vice president. And it's been the best decision that I've made. Today, I want to offer my full support and endorsement for Kamala to be the nominee of our party this year. Democrats, it's time to come together and beat Trump. Let's do this. That is from President Joe Biden in his tweet or his X to the world and to people, because there's been a lot of speculation within the last couple days, within the last weeks. Was Joe Biden going to step down as president of the United States? And so the decision was made, and now it's public. And let me start also by saying it took a lot for the president of the United States. If you know Joe Biden, if you know the type of man that he is, he did not want to do this. But I believe that he did it for the best of the country. And people are going to say different things. Historians are going to, say what they're going to put together in years as we go on, and history is going to say different things. But I think that the president was very courageous in his decision to move forward. The time that we have is not a lot of time before the Democrats get together in Chicago and they have their convention. There needs to be a time of unification. We have to unite as the party as we go forward. Now, with that being said, what I just read to you, the president said that his pick is Kamala. There it is.
Yeah.
And just talking with people, and Nin, we've had a discussion, we've been talking. I just feel like the Americans, the country wasn't ready for a woman president in 2016.
Do you think they're ready now?
I think they need to get ready.
Okay.
I really do think that they need to be ready because there's not a lot of time. And when you look at people that are familiar, because that's what we really want to talk about, Kamala Harris is that person. As vice president, people know her within the 4 years, right? Well, coming up. They know her. Some of the other candidates that they're talking about replacing Joe Biden on the ticket, a lot of people don't know them.
That's actually very true. And people are going to go with the person that they are most familiar with, know their policies more. So even if they don't want to vote for Trump, if they don't know the Democratic Party, they're going to be like, well, I don't know what you stand for.
I don't know what you stand for.
Yeah.
Locally, we know sometimes local government, we know who our officials are, right?
Yeah.
But on the national stage, and
No.
this is a big stage,
No.
we don't have that much time. So I am going to tell you now that she is at the top. Now, we don't know what decisions yet we haven't even heard the vice president come out. But the former president, Barack Obama, also X'd something. Can I read that?
Yeah, he made a statement too.
He made a statement too.
Did Kamala make a statement yet?
That's a good question. We don't know yet, but maybe she did. But I want to read to you something that the former president, Barack Obama, Joe Biden has been one of America's most consequential presidents, as well as a dear friend and partner to me. Today, we've also been reminded again that he's a patriot of the highest order. And that's coming from Barack Obama on Joe Biden's decision to step down. Now, we need to unify.
1,000%.
The Republicans just had their convention here recently, right down the street from us in Milwaukee. The things that led up to that particular convention, the former president with an assassination attempt on his life.
That was crazy.
Which I don't condone, and I think that it's horrible, and I think that it should have no place in America, whether you're a Democrat, whether you're a Republican. It should not happen because of free speech and being able to debate and being able to go out on a campaign trail. This shouldn't happen. So it was great that the former president, it was nothing crazy. Every one of us that watched that and we saw it, I found it to be very alarming. No one expects that because now you're in a crowd. There's so many other people. And the gentleman who lost his life, our condolences going out to his family and friends of his. It just shouldn't happen at a rally. It should not happen in the United States. And it also goes back to let you know that we have a big problem in the United States with guns. It is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Even in Chicago, Nin, over the 4th of July weekend, there were 100 people shot in Chicago. Now, the third largest city.
Wow.
I'm not even going to get into the fatalities of those, but those are actual numbers. The gentleman that attempted to take out the president, 20-year-old
very young
Thomas Crooks, who was able to obtain an AR-15, Secret Service, who's supposed to protect the former presidents and the president doing a job. I mean, that's a big job.
It is.
Kind of dropped the ball on that thing. It should not happen. So I do not condone that assassination. And I know a lot of people are saying different things, right?
The conspiracy theories.
The conspiracy. What are some of those conspiracy theories?
Like the head of Secret Service was against him and wanted it to happen.
I heard that.
Yeah.
I heard that. And she's a woman.
Yeah.
And I don't think that was the case. But she does have blame because what happened? They knew of this. They had been told that this could be a situation.
Yeah, I mean, it's in an open field, so it's like you should have been on more high alert, high security. It's very odd.
It is very odd, but it happened.
It did.
And it happened, and we saw it happen. Thank God that the former president was not hurt bad. I know that there was something here to the right ear, and you can see him you can even hear. Remember, you can just kind of remembering hearing that. You can hear it. It's just kind of crazy just to reflect back on it. And it got him down to the ground. But so much has happened after that. So they enter that convention. The president picks his pick as vice president, which is Mr. Vance, first-time senator in the state of Ohio. Yeah. Somebody new on the ticket.
I think that also goes back to what you were saying is that this guy is from Ohio. Nobody knows who he is.
Nobody knows who
Nobody
he is.
knows what he stands for. It was completely out of pocket. People were like, why didn't he do Vivek Ramaswamy? Because he got a platform. People now know who he is. Whereas this random guy from Ohio, everyone's like, well, who's that?
Who is this guy?
Who is
J.D.
that guy?
Vance put himself through school.
Yeah.
Served in the armed services.
Well, thank you for doing the research for the audience.
Yeah, and also wrote a book called Hillbilly Ideology. Whatever that book is, you got to kind of read that book. Yeah. So this is the vice presidential pick of the United States. Guys, do your homework. Do your homework. You guys got to read up. You can't be like my mom. My mom is on the phone and she's calling me. Did you see that on you? Did you hear? And I'm like, Mom, that is not true. But it just goes to show you where we are, how we get our information, how those quick little sound bites. We talked about the editing, did we not, Nan? Luke, how you can edit something now and it can make you seem like, oh my God, that's the biggest dunce in history. But it may not be true.
Wait, so then I have a question for you. Trump, when he was doing his speech, was making a lot of claims and stuff like that.
He was lying. No,
did you fact check him, or are you making that up?
Are you ready?
You did. You did
Are
fact
you
check
ready?
him.
I did fact check him.
I'm ready.
Because there were whenever time this man opens his mouth, those MAGA supporters, he can say anything. And they, whatever, okay? They go crazy, all right? They were there in the audience with bandages on their right ear. Are you kidding me? I mean, let me tell you something. And I'm going to share this real quick because I'm going to get back to the other thing. But the day after Trump, the attempted, he was on the golf course with no bandage, nothing. He shows up a couple days later at the Republican National Convention with a bandage looking as big as a maxi pad on the doggone ear. I could not believe it. And everybody in the row, here they go. There we go. I'm like, are you serious? It's optics. It's things. Here he comes. He's walking in. He was wounded. Now, your question?
Yeah.
Getting back to
fact checking.
Fact checking?
Yeah.
Here we go. You ready?
I'm so ready for it.
All right, here we go.
And I'm sure the audience is ready for it too. Everyone's been hearing things and you kind of believe what you're fed, but if somebody else does the research for you, let's back it up.
Let's go with the one here where Donald Trump says, we stopped the missile launches from North Korea. This is what North Korea was launching missiles to come to. North Korea continued to launch short-range ballistic missiles during Trump's tenure, even when the two countries held talks to try to actually negotiate a possible agreement that would have eased sanctions in return for a curtailing country's nuclear missile program. So no, that did not happen.
So false.
So that was actually false. It probably sounded good to a lot of people at the convention. We did not stop missiles from launching from North Korea. Are you guys ready for the next one? All right, so Donald Trump, let's go to this one. I think this is great. We gave you the largest tax cut ever.
That sounds really nice.
It sounded nice, right?
Yes.
It sounded good. And how would Trump say it? We gave you the largest tax cut ever, but it was not true. The GOP-sponsored tax bill that Trump signed into law in December of 2017 does not amount to the biggest in U.S. history, according to the nonpartisan committee for the responsible federal budget. According to its estimates, the tax cut is the 8th biggest in history and not the biggest.
He made it sound like he was number one.
It made it sound like it was number one. One more. And I'm this is just fact checking Donald Trump according to my news sources, which are factual. He said, the election result, we never gonna let it happen again. They used COVID to cheat. He said this on a national stage. In fact, Trump is referring to changes made during the COVID pandemic, largely to make it easier to vote by mail or absentee, and congregating at the polls posed a health risk. Democrats embraced the changes and turned out many voters by mail, while Trump slammed it. There is no evidence these changes lead to fraud. I'm going to stop right there, guys. No one mentioned, and you didn't hear this in the Republican National Convention, but no one even brought up the fact that Donald Trump is a convicted felon. Anybody that goes after him now, anybody that's going to replace the top of the ticket, needs to basically talk about these things. Because if you don't, Trump is going to continue to lie, and he's going to continue to spread mistruths like he's done. He didn't just start. He's been doing this, and he's done it. This is the first time that a party of the United States has elected to put a convicted felon at the top of the ticket. Can you imagine what our allies and what people are saying about the United States of America? You have got to be kidding me. This should not happen. But it has happened. He is the nominee, and he is running for president. He is leading in the polls. So we have to unite.
So, but why do you think that is? Why do you think he's leading the polls despite being a convicted felon?
Why do I think he's leading in the polls despite everything that they have thrown at him? And of course, they're going to bring that up. Oh my God, he's been able to survive this and that and this and that. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, that who we're dealing with here. This is the same guy from 4 years ago, okay? This is the same guy who says that he's talked about being a dictator. The reason why he picked Vance in Ohio, because I believe that Vance is going to be someone that Pence wasn't for him. Imagine him being a reelected, and then those 4 years, and he decides, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere this time. You guys got me. You got me. Shame on you. Shame on you. Fool me once. We're all going to be, I'm not going to be fooled, and I don't want you guys to be fooled either.
Yeah.
This guy is dangerous. His Proposition 25, go look it up. Go Google it. See what he wants to do. And I'm not talking about the illegals who have come into the country, but people who have been here for 30 years, immigrants that he wants to sit. This thing is going to spiral. Read between the lines. Do your homework. You've got to do it because we only have a couple more months and it's going to all be decided in the voting booth.
So before you go to vote, do you do your homework?
I do my homework. Okay. I do my homework on all the candidates, and I think that everyone should do that, and not just from what someone else said or some of this real fake news, because there's a lot of fake news outlets out here, okay? Go with the sources. Fact check things, because you need to do that, especially young people who are getting engaged in politics for the first time. For people who are trying to make up their minds on what candidate is best, who is going to do for me, or who's going to make my life better. How is my family going to be better? What's on the ballot? And let me say this, democracy is on the ballot. You've heard it before. A woman's right is on the ballot. Roe versus Wade, that was overturned by a Supreme Court that has gone cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. I don't know what's going on with the Supreme Court. They need to be held accountable for some of the decisions that they are making. And most of these guys are Trump appointees. Remember, he had 4 years. It was unprecedented. 4 years, and he appointed 3 Supreme Court justices. Oh my goodness, we miss you, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. RG. Oh my God, she waited. She tried. It couldn't happen though. It just didn't happen. So we have got to make sure that we are making the right decisions. Not only is Roe versus Wade, but a woman's right. A woman should be able to do whatever she wants to do with her body. Point blank. If Trump is elected and Vance, that is all going to change.
So what got you into voting? You sound so passionate about it.
Oh my goodness. I feel like, let me tell you. Because as a young college student.
Okay, that's when you started voting.
As a young college student, I had just turned 18.
Okay.
I wanted to make a difference. I was inspired.
Okay.
There was a time where African Americans could not vote.
Yes.
There was a time when women could not vote. I believe years ago, Lyndon B. Johnson, the Civil Rights, the Voting Acts, right, was passed so people could do what? Have an opportunity to be able to choose. That has, and even it's even making it hard to vote in other parts of the country. In certain parts, southern parts and places where you think they're making it hard and trying to oppress voters. But I got enthused because then I wanted to make a difference.
Yeah.
I felt like my vote, which some people I talk to, oh, your vote doesn't matter. Oh, stay at home. You should not have the stay at home mentality. If everybody stays at home, of course, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
You have got to get out to exercise that right. And once I started voting, I believe in our system. I believe in government.
Yeah.
I believe that government is in place to help some people that can't help themselves. I don't believe that government should do it all. I believe that you have to sometimes, as the American, to work hard, to be able to provide for your family, to be able to go to school and not have to worry about student debt, as the president and this administration has tried to wipe out. They've done a good job at it, but there's some court systems right now that want to kind of put a halt on the forgiveness of student loans. This is not right.
So you want your voice to be heard when you're voting and
Yes.
all of that, yeah.
Your vote counts. If you decide to sit this one out, because a lot of people are already probably thinking with the polls, I think you mentioned it, because there are polls that have Trump up. In some of the national polls, not as much, right? In some of the swing states that are very important.
Yes.
Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, where they just were down the street at the convention.
Yeah.
It is crazy, Nan. The climate is crazy. But this is one of the biggest elections of our lifetime.
It's a historical one because I don't think in many of our lifetimes have we had a candidate drop out so close
My
to
heart
voting.
sunk.
Yeah.
I like the guy. I have followed him, not just as vice president, not just as president, his years in the Senate, some of the things that they were able to pass as some of the Democrats that were leaning to do certain things. There's a lot of people that don't like Joe Biden. They say different things. But one thing you can say, he's a man of integrity. He's not a convicted felon. What he did, it was told you the truth. It may have been a little slow. It may not have always been like you wanted it. He may not have gone up on Air Force One the way you wanted it or come down.
Yeah.
He may have had to change his shoes to those Hoika shoes or Hoka, whatever those comfortable shoes up with the president that he walks in. But one thing about it, you know what you get with Joe Biden.
Yeah.
It took a strong person, a person with integrity, a person with class to be able to do what he did. The last person to resign from the presidency resigned because of the horrible things that he was responsible for. And that was Richard Milhouse Nixon, who resigned, the Republican. And of course, he got on national TV. You can go search YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
And you can see it. And then Gerald Ford, who was his vice president, became president. But not since then has a president said that they're going to call it quits, that they were hanging it up, and they still could run. So, yeah, it took a lot out of it for him, but I do believe that the president did this for a reason.
But I think if Kamala does kind of run for president, Joe Biden was also a vice president. And that's kind of the reason why he got a lot of votes, too, is because people knew who Obama was. They knew who his vice president was. And back to social media, when President Obama, a lot of people made Joe Biden and Obama memes. Remember that?
This is so true.
Yeah, and so that really fueled the candidacy and just fueled him to get more votes. So, like, what do you think the new president and the presidents now, or the ones that want to get elected, have to do to kind of, like, mobilize and organize the youth? Because I think it's the youth that are more so, maybe we shouldn't vote because our voice isn't being heard. And they're the ones that are burdened with student loan debt. It didn't get canceled or forgiven 100%. And so first-time home buyers is at 35 years old now, so it's getting older. Like, what do you have to say for people that have that defeatist feeling?
Let's keep hope alive.
Okay.
Let's keep hope alive, and that's one thing about our country. You know, we've been through a lot. We've been through mass shootings, right? We've been
Yes.
through, but we've always seemed to come together and kind of heal. We've been through an insurrection, something that this guy, the former president, was responsible. Had a lot of the blame was on him with this insurrection, right? They didn't talk about that, overtaking the corridors of
Yeah.
the Senate halls. Horrible. Big. So I think that we have to be able to keep hope alive. And yes, we need to go young. Because let me tell you, both of these guys were old. Trump is right behind Biden.
Yeah, they're
as
only like
far
a
as
few years
Just a
apart.
few years
Yeah.
apart. Yes, age has become a difference. And in America, we kind of, and our country is probably one of the only countries that kind of look at it like that as far as you, because there are other countries who have elected women presidents and women prime
Yes,
ministers,
a
right?
lot.
Who have really have been engaged
Yep.
long in the battle. In the United States is sometimes, we're just behind in a lot of ways. But I do believe that in this next go around, both parties need to kind of get it together and choose candidates and basically whatever that platform is, because the Republican platform of today is not the same Republican platform that Ronald Reagan, that they were building on. And we mentioned it back in the day when Ronald Reagan was president. From just history, you can see it where him and the Democrats were able to get together to what they call have bipartisan support, doing what's good for what? The country, doing what's good, not for me, not me as this former president. It's all about him.
Yeah.
But what about the country? The needs of the country. Why is it that single women have to have two jobs to support their kids? Why is it that people are struggling and prices are insane? Gas prices are insane. Why are some of these things? And some of the young people have some of those things. What can you do for me? But you also have to have a certain type of energy. And I believe that when President Obama, the former president, was running, there was a type of energy. There was a type of excitement and electricity that kind of fueled that campaign, which got everybody involved, not just black people, but people from all different parts of life, because they felt like they wanted to be a part of something special.
Do you feel like everyone was more united? Do you
Yes.
feel like there was more bipartisan?
I think that at that particular time, that's a good question. I think that we had began to see less and less bipartisan work even when George Bush was in office.
Yeah.
And as you can kind of see it kind of like go and fade. And then when Barack was elected, some of the things that you heard and some of the things that were said and some of the things that even in his presidency that he had to endure, I just think that we've lost it.
Yeah.
And now the House, the Republican House, the Democratic Senate, they need to kind of come together. I believe there should be term limits on some of these guys.
Yeah.
Just like there are term limits on the president serving 8 years, some of these guys have been serving and serving and serving and serving. I mean, come on, guys, give me a break. Take a look. You got really nice pensions when you retire from working in government. If you are a representative or a senator, those are great. But I think that we need to kind of get back to working together.
Yeah.
We have to be able to get back so we can sign legislation that's going to be good for you, that's going to be good for me, that's going to be good for Luke, and for the futures, right? Because it's all about the future. What is it? America, right? Land of the free.
Yeah. And I think
Home of the brave.
I think you bring up a good point. What I've noticed is that a lot of American history and like more recent American history. Like in schools, we're taught like older American history, how America was founded and all of that. But you're really bringing in like the presidencies, what they did during their presidencies. And I think it's very important for the youth to educate themselves on the presidents that came before them, right?
Yes, that's exactly right.
When I was born was just Bush, Obama, and now we have this, but we have to look back at like Bill Clinton. What did he do?
Yes.
What did Reagan do? What did Nixon do? What did all of these presidents do?
Yes.
And what did the youth do at that time, right? We have Martin Luther King. He organized, he mobilized, he did all of these things.
He did those things.
And he was able to get African Americans to a place that's significantly better. And like the whole point of like, people ask like, what's the point of life? What's the meaning of life? It's to enter the world in one way and leave it being a better place. So when Martin Luther King got assassinated, unfortunately, he made this world a better place for African Americans. And I think that we as a youth need to do that as well. And
Yes.
I think you're so passionate about it, and so many other people need to be as passionate, because this is our country, right? Whether you're an immigrant here or whether you're first generation or third, whatever it may be, this is your country. You have to work on it. And I think that's where you're coming from, is that like, we really got to work on it.
Exactly. And America was built from immigrants.
It literally was, yeah.
Literally immigrants coming into the country, trying to make a life, a better life.
Yeah.
And it's still today. It shouldn't change. But I think that we've lost that vision. And I think some people have lost hope. So this particular election is so important.
Yeah.
I urge everyone, if you have an opportunity to go out and vote, vote. Do it. Do not stay at home. You can even do early voting. We talked about that. You don't have to do voting within your district or your neighborhood. You may be a working person. You may have hold down 2 jobs. You can get down and you can cast your vote. Whoever you vote for, that's on you. That's your decision. Once you go in that booth, it's about you and your decision. But make sure you are doing your homework.
Yes.
And before we go, and let me just say this, the president and his administration, for people that said they have done nothing, the Biden-Kamala administration has done a lot. A lot of it may not be touted yet because that's the way the cycles are.
Yeah.
You may not think about that until maybe 3 or 4 years to say, wow, man, this guy created 14 million jobs. One of the biggest Biden has done. The infrastructure, the rebuilding of our bridges that were being torn down are in our streets, because we have to be able to need money to be able to go the next 100 years.
Yes.
So there were things done. And the student debt that have been relieved, are you kidding me? So, ladies and gentlemen, do your homework. Exercise your right. Go out and do the right thing. Do the right thing. Very important. Let's make it happen in the voting booth. Nin, you are great.
Thank you. Thank you for having
Nin, do
me.
you have any more questions for me?
I don't think as of now, but I do have to say
Yes.
that if we are going to learn anything from this podcast episode, we learned a lot from Devontae, is that educate yourself. If anything, educate yourself. And if you're going to be passionate about something, don't just go off of what Twitter, X, TikTok, whatever has taught you. Learn for yourself. Read books. We have so much access. We have libraries. We have Google. Literally, do all of the research and talk to people, whether they're on opposing sides, Democrat,
Yes.
Republican, whatever the case may be. The spectrum is so much wider than that, right? We can have
is.
a third-party candidate, right?
That's right.
So we can do so much if we stop looking at our differences and realize that we're more similar than anything.
That is so true, Nin. So let's mobilize and let's organize.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Nin, you are terrific. I want you
you.
to also support my friend Nin, because she does a wonderful podcast as well. And Shameless in Chicago.
Shameless in Chicago.
Shameless in Chicago with that
Yes.
other guy, that nice guy, that guy that he's
The
also
Luke.
a barista and does things, and he's going to marry a roadcaster.
Yeah.
That's on a future podcast.
No, I swear.
That's Luke. Guys, don't forget to subscribe to us. Subscribe to this guy's podcast. It's on YouTube. Devontae Stone. Spell it for you. It's DAVANTESTONE. Let's get this thing going. Let's get
do
this
it.
thing rolling. And whatever you do, go and vote.
Alrighty, everyone. Until the next episode. Bye.